Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning.
Good morning, sir. We can hear you.
Great. So we can start. I think others will join. So this is food quality and sensory evaluation is very important. Now you are in the final year, so the research activities are there and training. All you have this experience in your trainings, and for your research, this will be very important. So. What is food? You have gone through the food quality part, and now I'm going to discuss on food sensory analysis. So sensory analysis is very important because it is actually one of the very important method in quality management, and always we follow the quality sensory analysis to determine several things. And especially in the food industry, sensory. And I have seen some students are conducting their research, developing their products, and going to shoot the troubles arising in the industries without having a proper knowledge of sensory analysis. So just as an example, in the morning, you are going to taste a cup of tea. So that is also under sensory analysis. So, the taste of a tea, and you have predetermined its taste. Then with the tea, you are going to compare the image on your mind and the actual tea. So that is also belongs to sensory analysis. There are so many sensory attributes. Whether it is okay with our attributes or not, we are going to determine that one, right? So actually, the sensory analysis is a very big scope. There are so many definitions and research studies and methodologies and standards are available in the world. So in this module, we are going to do a brief summary. And if you are interested, I will share some books and papers to read, right? So actually, sensory evaluation is a scientific discipline used to evoke, measure, analyze, and interpret reactions to those characteristics of food and materials as they are perceived by senses of sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. So it is very easy to understand the definition. It is actually a scientific discipline, but we use to evoke, measure, and analyze and interpret reactions. There are some reactions, we have 5 senses, and we are going to measure the food by using those 5 senses and take decisions, right? There is a definition. Learning outcomes and all these things you can read, and these are some references. I have ordered these books, and fortunately, some books are available in the library now. But unfortunately, you are not in the university. So when you come to the university, you can read. There are some books, and some online available books are there. So actually, the sensory evaluation is very interesting part. So if you are interested, you can read the articles available in the web. Right. So how do you feel on this picture? So this is actually a prawns curry. So the color and the texture, everything you can determine by analyzing this picture. Neither. Sensory evaluation is a scientific way to analyze or measure human responses to the composition of food. That is basically what you can understand is by analyzing this picture. This is a fresh one, right? The flavor will be very good, and the odor also very good. Picture right? So that is also based on your experience. So somebody someone, you may comment on foods, right? When you are going through a road or any passing some food stalls, then you can see some kottu and paratha like stalls available in the roadside. So then you can determine that one is very good. So that color is very good. You can determine. You have that experience. We all have that experience. But in this course module, we are going to study how to determine the sensory evaluation in a scientific way, right? That is the difference here. And as we have already discussed, sensory analysis is a multidisciplinary science. It is an art, it is a science. Actually, there are so many organs and the several parts of the brain are working together in this sensory evaluation, right? And when we are conducting sensory evaluation, you know, we are using human panels, right? We are using humans. When we use humans, their perceptions, their what do you call the capacity, and all the factors are different, right? As an example, you know, basically, girls, you may like some chocolate-like products. But boys, that is totally different, and it is based on the region. When we consider Sri Lanka, you know, the colored beverages, as an example, Necto and Fanta, like drinks, the colored beverages, the highest sale for these colored beverages are recorded in Jaffna-like regions, right? ඔගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා සාමාන්‍යයෙන් පාට වැඩි beverages විකිරණ වැඩි Jaffna වගේ පැතිවල. And you know, when we consider coffee and tea, coffee is very famous in Nuwara, Kandy-like areas. With the climate also, that is deviated, right? And human to human, when we consider 10 people, so their preferences are different, right? One person like to eat sugary food, the other one like salty one, right? So here, this is very complex one. We are using human panels for sensory analysis. So we will discuss how to manage this situation. But we all have 5 senses: sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. So how to manage these things together, right? And how to coordinate all these senses together effectively. So that is what we are going to discuss. And you know, human brain is a coordinator for all these activities. For all 5 senses, the brain will coordinate. And but nowadays we have modern methods. Electronic methods are available to avoid that biasing effect, right? When we use electronic devices, then we can avoid that one, right? Deviations, the human biasing, sometimes just think that you have developed a new food product and you just ask your friends to sense it and give their responses. But thereafter, if you have good friends, all the friends say that is the product is okay, right? So if you have some other friends, some others may comment that is bad. So actually, it is based on not the product, actual senses, but there are some other factors. But when it comes to electronic methods, so we can avoid these errors. So we electronic noses, electronic tongue, electronic eye. So we are talking about these things, but we have electronic nose in our laboratory. That is the first electronic nose available in Sri Lanka, right? So you can use that electronic nose for your research activities. And we have ordered e-tongue, but it's very high in cost, highly expensive, more than 10 million now. So it is very difficult to get that one. We are trying. And what are the importance of sensory analysis? Right? What are the importance? We are using sensory analysis technique for new product development. So that is clear. We have to use sensory analysis to determine the quality, final quality of the product, and to measure whether it is acceptable or not. Right? We have developed this product and we are going to check whether it is acceptable or not. And also, we can analyze its shelf life. So you know how to analyze the shelf life of a particular food product. We can do microbiological analysis, and chemical analysis also possible. And parallelly, we have to do a sensory study, right? It means, as an example, let's consider about a cup of tea. So we have prepared that one. And within 10 minutes, what happened to sensory qualities? Within 30 minutes, what happened? Then we are going to observe within 2-3 hours and 1 day. Likewise, we have to determine the intervals and its quality, right? So it is we are using sensor analysis for the shelf life determination, and food quality controlling is very. Let's say that when we consider food processing plant, food processing factory, so there are several batches, and sometimes several processing lines are there. They are functioning parallelly together. Then how to measure its quality? And that the company has already decided the quality parameters, pH, and the taste, color, everything they have determined in their standards. And so we are going to analyze, compare each batches, right? Sometimes there might be some deviations. So we are going to improve the product, improve the process lines, right? Based on the customer's requirement and based on the new raw material availability. But nowadays, there is a big, there are so many problems nowadays due to this financial crisis. So companies are moving towards new raw materials, right? How to incorporate new raw materials to reduce the cost. So for that, after developing the new products and after alterations, after conducting the alterations and after improving the products, so then we have to do, definitely we have to do a sensory analysis or a series of sensory analysis to measure its quality and to compare it with our standards and the competitive products available in the market, right? So I think it's clear. Storage studies, we have discussed shelf life and process development. That is also clear. Process development is very important, as we have already discussed. So for that, we can use sensory analysis to analyze whether it is effective or not, whether it is good or not, right? So, and whether we can apply that new method or not, right? So we are using sensory analysis. Instead of these applications, there are some other applications to analyze human perception and how to affect, how to determine the factors. What are the factors affecting for sensory analysis? Likewise, so many researches are going on. Right. And do you have do you know what are the differences in between senses and attributes? How many senses we have? How many senses we have? We have discussed.
5, 7.
Yes, great. How many sensory attributes we have? Piyumi, Prabhashi? How many sensory attributes we have? Prabodhani, give me an example for a sensory attribute. Prabodhani, are you there? Sandanika? What the sensory attribute can? What's your sensory attribute? Then no example like sensory attribute. Give me an example. No example, ne? Right. So senses versus sensory attributes. Senses means we have only 5 senses as you have told, and there are so many sensory attributes are there. So sensory attributes means we are going to we use those sensory attributes to determine the quality of food. Right? It means we are using those sensory attributes to measure the food quality. And our senses can identify the changes of those sensory attributes. As an example, you know color, that is belongs to sensory attributes, and texture, crispiness, saltiness, taste, its sweetness, right? And flavor, aroma, all these things are belongs to sensory attributes. So it is very important to remember the differences between senses and sensory attributes. So here you can see some 5 senses and related sensory attributes, right? So taste, you know, flavor, sweet and sour flavor and salty flavor. There are so many flavors. And touch, texture, hearing, sound, smell, aroma, sight, appearance, color, size, everything. So there are 5 senses and there are so many sensory attributes, right? So now we are going to discuss about human senses. So I'm not going to explain these things in detail. You can read and understand. I have already shared some articles with you in your LMS. So you can read these things. How human sensing system is working. You have to read and understand. I will discuss important details. You know, we have 5 senses. The first one is vision. How it is working. You know, there is an object, so light waves, you know, sunlight is there, the light waves come on this surface and reflected by the object and enter to the eye, our naked eye, then enter to the eye, and the light waves, the reflected light waves create an image on our retina. You know what is retina, and there are 2 types of cells, rods and cones. You know the Yashti Saketu Sailane, Guludarna Singh, for oral science, you know how our human eye is working. And then what happened? You know, cones are responsible for color vision, and rods are responsible for black and white vision. Then the brain can identify the image create on our retina, right? That is the summary. Right? And then the brain interprets these signals and we perceive the appearance, color. We can understand the color easily and its texture. Whether it is a rough product or soft one. And whether it is how to consume this one. We can get a decision, right? Based on that image. You know, if it is sometimes if it is a piece of meat, and just imagine about an ice cream. So there are different methods to consume. So we can get that decision based on the human eye perception, right? And surface texture, whether it is a transparent food, whether it is a translucent food, whether it is an opaque food. So we can determine all these things and its shape and its size. So we need to break it. So we have to break it to several pieces, or we have to consume it part by part. So we have to get all these decisions before entering the food into the mouth, right? The second one is gustation, little bit new word to you. The first one, the vision is very common. The gustation is a little bit new word. Gustation means actually a taste, right? Gustation means taste. How it occurs? The second stage, when we take the food inside the mouth, then the gustation will start. As a result of non-volatile compounds, those compounds will dissolve in water, or sometimes some oil-soluble chemicals are there. And we have saliva in our mouth cavity. So these non-volatile substances, chemical compounds will react with our taste receptors after dissolving, right? Then it can identify the taste, right? And there are two places, our mouth, inside the mouth cavity, we have tongue, and there are specific areas for each taste. And another way is that throat, we have some senses in the throat also, right? And different flavors are there. I think you are familiar with this taste. You all have experiences how to where the specific region is for salty taste. You know all these things, right? Gustatory sensation can be divided as mentioned here, salt substances. So the sodium chloride is the most common salt taste chemical compound we are consuming daily. So it is one of the very common ones. There are so many sweet substances due to carbohydrate, glucose, fructose, sucrose, like carbohydrates are there. We are consuming for our three staples. That is also common. Then sour taste. What is the meaning of sour taste? When we consume a piece of lime, then you can feel the sour taste, right? So as a result of citric, phosphoric, like acid, other responsible things. There are so many responsible chemicals. Here you can see some examples, right? Bitter taste, bitter good, caffeine like coffee, that is also a little bit bitter one. So, so I'm not going to explain. And umami, nowadays we are talking about the umami taste as a result of MSG, monosodium glutamate, right? So these are the 5 senses you can feel. It is actually a very common thing you can understand easily, right? Here you can see some sensory attributes: sweet, bitter, umami, like different taste attributes are there. Then the new word, olfaction. Third one, olfaction. You are familiar with odor and aroma, smell. So olfaction is a little bit scientific word. We are using these type of words in sensory analysis. So you better to remember these words. What is the meaning of olfaction and gustatory sensation like this? Okay. So olfaction means the similar words are odor, aroma, smell, fragrance, and flavor. That is also a different one. We will discuss what is the meaning of flavor and how it differs later. So olfaction means, so we have discussed in the gustation due to non-volatile substances, but here there are volatile compounds are responsible. නේද? ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැන් කෑමක් දුර වෙනකොට සුවඳ එනවානේ. So as a result of volatile molecules. So we have sensory receptors in the nasal cavity, cavities. We call it as olfactory receptors. And there are two mechanisms, orthonasal and retronasal reactions. Right? There are two reactions. We will discuss. And there are around 17,000 different volatile compounds responsible for olfaction. And then what are the orthonasal and retronasal reactions? Right? In this picture, you can see orthonasal reaction. As we have already discussed, right? That is actually orthonasal reaction. Right? Here you can see how the volatile compounds are coming from food to the nose. As we discussed, these are the receptors. Then the brain cells will stimulate and identify the taste. And retronasal means the food is inside the mouth, right? Then here, food is outside the mouth. Then what happened? The volatile compounds going through this back throat and come into this sensory receptors, odor receptors. Understood? The orthonasal and retronasal, these are two different reactions. For orthonasal, food is outside, and the volatile compounds coming through the nasal cavity, and the sensors will identify the taste. But in the retronasal one, food is inside now. Then the volatile compounds are going through the back throat and identify the taste. So the paths are different, right? You better to understand. So that's why we call the nose and the mouth are interconnected. That is the reason behind that. Right? And the brain can identify so many factors, so many fragrances. Here you can see some examples for fragrances. Floral smell, oily smell, citrus, green smell, leather smell. So likewise, there are so many examples. Rancid smell, woody, mild smell, tart smell, spicy, rancid, pungent, rotten. Examples. So these are some examples. You also know what are the examples for odor. Right. And the fourth one, it is very important. It is touch. And we call sometimes tactile and consistence, texture. There are similar words. So, but our sense is touch. We can sense the touch using our human skin. Okay? And there are three reactions, as you can see here: synthesis, kinesis, and chemistry. Right? These are the three reactions. The first one you can see when food comes close to the mouth. When we take the food close to the mouth, what happens then? First, skin of lips and tongue surface. The food comes through the lips, right? You know that is very common. We all consume foods similarly. So first what happened? The food is outside and is coming through the mouth. The initial step is the food touch the lip skin, right? That lipstick avoid but basically first we touch the skin of lips, then tongue and oral cavity surface, right? Then as a result of that reaction at the first sense, so we can identify its temperature and force, its particle size, all these things we can identify. As we discussed in the previous slides, we can determine whether it is a good food, how to break it, how to consume it, and its quality we can determine by using our vision. And now it is the touch means we can actually feel, right? Its temperature and texture and size and force we have to push, and the area of the mouth. අපි කට ඉස්සරහින් අල්ලන්නේ නැහැ නේ හයිය ෆුඩ් එකක් නේ අපි that මොන වගේ දත් වලින්ද මේක අල්ලන්න ඕනේ. We all these things we can determine. First one. The second one, what happen? Nerve fibers in the muscles, tendons, and joint senses tension and relaxation in the muscles. In this kinesthesis means there are some nerve fibers in the muscles. You know what happened when we are chewing and biting the food. Now the food is inside, then we are going to start its chewing and biting. අපි කන්න පටන් ගන්නවා. එතකොට what's happened? There are muscles and joints in our mouth cavity. You know, you can feel how they are working. Then nerve fibers are in the muscles and tendons, and joints will stimulate, right? Stimulates and determine its heaviness and hardness, right? කොච්චර force එකක් දෙන්න ඕනද නේ? That means kinesthesis, right? So you better to determine the differences in between these two, somesthesis and kinesthesis. There are two reactions. The way that we are going to determine the different factors regarding the food. The third one, chemesthesis. Here there is a totally different one. You know, the first two we have determined its force and size, all these things. The third one, in the name also it has mentioned, chemistry means chemical substances can stimulate trigeminal nerves in the skin, mouth, and nose, responsible for hot, burning, tingling, cooling, and astringent sensation. Right? In here, you know, chemical substances are there in foods. As an example, when we consume onion, lulu, you can feel its taste. There are some chemicals. In pepper, you know, piperine is there, right? In carbonated drinks, we can feel its fizzy type. Bubbles are coming out, its taste, right? Chemicals are there. And so wine, some tannin compounds are there in wine. So when we consume a little bit of wine, then you know, you may heard that we can feel a ring effect. Wine ටිකක් කට දාගත්තාම කට ඇතුළේ වලල්ලක් වගේ යනවා හොඳ වයින් එකක්. That is due to tannins and chemical compounds. So we can feel all these things due to the effect of chemical compounds, right? Due to the effect of chemical compounds. So these are the three reactions responsible for touch and texture identifications. So I suppose that you all know, you all understood this mechanism, right? So I will never write down what is somesthesis, kinesthesis, and three steps. I will show you my last year question paper. So always you all have to provide new answers. I will show you the picture later. Right? Then the texture again. Texture perception is complex. So you know that is complex one. Then attributes of food texture can be further divided into three categories: mechanical, geometric, and mouthfeel. Mechanical means hardness and chewiness. You know, when we are chewing food, we can understand its mechanical properties. And geometry, graininess and crumbiness. Geometry of food. That is also possible to identify when we take the food inside, and also by using the vision we can identify. Geometry means it's you know, the texture, like geometry, its shape, all these things. whether it is a crumb product, right? As when we use such example, you are going to fry two sausages. You are going to fry two sausages. The first one, pan frying. Second one, deep frying. Third one, you can boil. There are three sausages, same one, same brand, same color, all these things. First one, deep pan frying. Second one, deep frying. Third one, just boil. So the mouthfeel is different, right? You can imagine it. You can imagine. Then what happened when if the fried one converts or fried, then you can feel the texture. It's little difficult to crush it, right? So likewise, we can sense its mechanical, geometric, and mouthfeel by using the texture properties. And there are some modern equipments, texture profile analyzers are there to analyze the texture scientifically, right? There are three phases in food consuming. Initial phase, first bite, පළවෙනියට සැපීම ආරම්භ කරන වෙලාව. Masticatory phase means we are chewing the food, we are biting the food. And residual phase after swallowing, right? These are the three phases, right? We just take the food into the mouth and bite it, start to bite, first stage. And we are chewing further, then the food will react with saliva. And its texture also converting to a soft one. We call it as a masticatory phase. And after swallowing, the food is going to pass from mouth to other areas of the digestive tract. So residual phase, right? Then the last one, human audition, hearing. We have 2 ears, and there are tiny sensors inside the ears. You know the sensors, right? 3 organs in your ear, right? Actually, here the mechanism is totally different. We are using sound waves. How it occurs. There are different sound systems. So noise created when touching or stroking foods. You just think that we are going to consume a tippy tip, right? Tippy tip the sound generated. And let's see about a piece of bread. Then there is no voice. Then piece of biscuit. You know, biscuit means the crunchy one, crispy biscuit. And example for a cream cracker, you're going to take a cream cracker inside the mouth. Then what is the sound, noise? Then you just take it out and let it in a room, your room for 3-4 hours. Then you are going to eat it again. Then you can feel a different noise. Sometimes there is no noise due to the moisture absorbance, right? So likewise, hearing is very important. So we can, there are some examples. So sound waves are the responsible thing. So these are the brain sensation. So I have already shared an article with you regarding the sensation, how to react all these regions with the 5 senses. So you have to read it and understand. I'm not going to explain. So let's start the sensory process. This is a sensory process. So I will explain. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and ask, because this is very important. There are 3 stages in sensory process, right? Here you can see an example. So it is a very good example for the timely one. Then all sensor some examples that come. Right. The first stage is visual part. Second stage, tactile and touch part. Third stage is gustatory one. So you all are familiar with all these new words now. The first stage, visual. Then what happened? The food is outside. It is on your plate, on your dining table. You have sitting close to the food, but you have not yet started consume. Appearance of the package, product appearance, color, geometry, shape, everything you can determine by using the image. First reaction, appearance, on odor and smell also you can determine. Right. And how to consume it. ලොකු සෑන්ඩ්විච් එකක් තියෙනවා මුලින්ම කල්පනා කරනවා දැන් කට්ටිය ගොඩක් ඉන්නවා how to consume it නේ එක සැරේට වෙ කන්නත් බෑ කෑලි කනවාද. So likewise you can imagine how it consume, the way of consuming, and whether it is a hot one or not, you can just determine due to the smoke and the oil bubbles. Sometimes a fried product you can see oil bubbles are working. So then the temperature is high, so don't take inside to the mouth directly, right? Likewise, you can determine so many factors before take it even into your hand. Now the second stage, it is in your hand, and you are going to take it inside the mouth, right? When we take it inside the mouth, can you remember the lips and mouth surface, oral cavity, and the tongue is there. So as a result of those things, you can feel the temperature, its texture, and softness, whether it is soft one or hard one. So what areas do we need to work in the mouth? All these things we can determine. ඒතර සමහරවිට මේ දැක්කා වගේ නෑ කට ඇතුලේ තියෙනකොට නේ අපරාධ ඉච්චර අපි රසයි කියලා හිතන් හිටියා මේක රසක් නෑනේ කියලා හිතන අතර හපන්න ගත්තා. Right? Then all these factors you can determine. Texture is assessed through touch and physical contact with the food. Chewing resistance, olfaction. There are two mechanisms we have discussed: orthonasal and retronasal. Now the retronasal also started. Here orthonasal only. And the third part, it's gustatory part. Product taste and surface of the tongue is working and react with the food and feel the surface of the food and creates mouthfeel, temperature, retronasal activity. All these things are there. So these are the 3 steps. So please try to understand this process by using your own example. You just take an example and write down the 3 stages, right? ඔයගොල්ලෝ අටර lecture එකක් තියෙනවද? ඔයගොල්ලෝ අටර lecture එකක් තියෙනවද?
No, sir.
කාගෙත් තියෙන්නේ?
Lecture එකක් නෑ, sir.
නැද්ද හරි. Other than the lost dinner in, so I'm not going to share with recording. Omega may LMS right? Then as we have discussed the flavor, it is a different term. You know what is aroma, you know what is aroma, taste, and then flavor, right? Aroma means it's smell. Right? Smell, we can feel smell in 2 ways: orthonasal, retronasal, and what are the responsible organs and how it works. Right? Then taste. We have a tongue, and there are different areas, specific areas are there. So flavor is actually a combination of aroma and taste. Right? Flavor is actually a combination of aroma and taste. It's a psychological measure. Basically, the flavor is a combination, right? However, sound appearance will also help. Um, right, you can see the examples. And I would like to give you an exercise, right? You can just take a cream cracker and close your mouth, close your nose, and eat it. And feel the taste. Then you can take the same biscuit and try to cover your ears and taste it. Then third practical, close your nose and ears and take it. So you can feel different tastes. Actually, that is what happens when you are in sick mood, right? So the sensory system totally change with your different situations, and the environment also very important. We are doing some research with different music, how to change the flavor. We have started and we have obtained very good results. So if you are interested, you also can do these trials, right? So these are the importance of sensory evaluation. We have discussed a little bit. Now you have some other examples. Determine shelf life, new product development, identify the internal reactions. So that means internal reactions of the ingredients. So it means, so just take dal curry, an example. You just put dal, water, milk, spices, and some curry leaves and some other things to prepare a dal curry, right? You just take these, you just mix these things and put it on your burner and start boiling. Then the reactions are going on, right? Then with the time, what happened? The reaction rates, and reaction speeds, and reaction levels, all these things are different. And you are going to add some chilies, right? And some chemical compounds are also there in the market. So you can just add these things. Then the reactions are totally different. Now, your prepared curry is on your table. When you are going to eat that dal curry with bread, then the taste is different. And with rice, the taste is different. So it means the reactions are there. And you have prepared this dal curry for the breakfast. Now we are going to eat it for your lunch as well. Then what happened to the taste and sensory attributes? Different reactions. So likewise, when you when you are going to mix different ingredients together in developing food products, so there are so many reactions. So we all have to identify the reaction. We can use some sensory attributes. You may heard about ginger and cassava, right? There are some internal reactions, and when we put sometimes we just put. We are using salt. We are using some piece of salt with some fruits, right? So there are some reactions. So to determine these reactions, we are using sensory evaluation. Determine the effect of formulation changes, that is, okay. Process controlling, we have discussed. Ensure batch consistency, we have discussed. Determine consumer demand. So for the consumer demand means you may see some food products, they are doing consumer analysis with their food products. They ask somebody to take this piece of food product and eat it and give their comments. Expert versus consumer survey report, quality control in sensory evaluation with research activities. Right? The introduction part is over. So there are 3 other lectures to do. I will do all these things. So any questions regarding the introduction part? No questions. Right, then let's start the second one. We have discussed these things, and then multimodal perception, right? Sorry, multimodal perception means we have discussed the perception levels by 5 senses, but multimodal means uh, interactions between 2 or more particular senses. Flavor, we have discussed, it is actually a combination of taste plus aroma. And some texture also effect on that flavor we have discussed with the cream cracker example. With the sound, the flavor may change, and environmental factors also affects on the flavor, right? Sound, texture perception is combination of the visual, tactile, and kinesthetic properties of the food, right? So sound also responsible for the flavor. So it means we call it as multimodal perception. So multimodal means 2 or more senses, they are working together for a particular sensory attribute, right? These are the advantages to evaluate an existing food product against a benchmark sample. It means the companies are doing these things. They have a standard sample, then they are going to check different sample by benchmarking their standard sample. And also, if you are going to develop a new research for your research, you are going to develop a new product. As an example, it's a yogurt. So you are going to benchmark your new product with existing product. It means market available product. So you have to take 1 or more existing product, maybe Highland yogurt or Kotmale, and just benchmark that existing one with your new product, right? To detect the similarities or any differences in group of food products, to analyze food sample, further development, to elicit specific responses to food sample, whether it is acceptable or not, right? To study a particular property in an ingredient or a food product. It means, as we discussed earlier, there are when we are using different raw materials together to develop a food product, so there are some effects as a result of different ingredients. So we can study the effect of each ingredient. And standardization. Standardization means, suppose you are going to develop a food product. It is sausages. It's a sausage. So standards are there, right? Standards are there and standard samples are there. So you just prepare your product and compare your product with the standard samples, right? And market research, we have discussed the market research in detail in your 4th semester or 3rd or 5th semester for a new product development. For to conduct market research, sometimes we are using food samples. Okay? Right? Don't worry about the paper, right? My papers are, you have experience with my papers, right? So don't worry about the papers, and but sensory analysis is very important, right? So in Google also, it is not available, readily available. There are very minimum, very minor resources are available, right? So it is very important to understand these things very well. So unfortunately, almost half is there now. So I don't know why. I have shared the link before 3-4 days ago. I don't know what happened to the students. So they can learn these. They can learn. They have to learn the difficulties, but it can help after that, right? When they go to the industry, when they are going to develop new food product, in their career, in their life, everywhere, sensor analysis is very important. So I don't know what happened to the students and what they are going to do in future, right? So therefore, I'm not going to share this recording, and they have to read the presentations and understand. Right. And standards we have discussed in your quality management module. What are the standards, right? You are already familiar with standards. ISO standards are there, JCCP. Likewise, there are different standards. But when it comes to sensory analysis, we have different types of standards. Sorry, different institutes are also available. Among all these institutions, I have selected three institutions here. The first one is British Standards Institution, BSI. Second one is International Organization for Standards. ඔගොල්ලෝ paper එකේ 180ක් මේක වරද්දලා තිබ්බා ගිය සැරේ. ISO ගාම International Standard Organization කියලා. Right? International Organization for Standards. ISO standards are also available for sensory procedures. American Society for Testing Materials, ASTM, ASTM standards. These are the commonly used standards in the world for sensory analysis. Our sensory analysis use ASTM standards, and there are different standards and institutions are also available. I just wanted to tell you these are the important standards. And BSI is the world's largest certification body. You can get more details through this website and link. And here you can see around 178 standards are there relevant to the sensory. And ASTM, they have around 77 standards related to sensory. And this is the logo and this is the link, right? Link. So these are the general things. So I'm now moving to the sensory assessment method. These are very important. Please understand these things carefully. If you have any question, small question, please raise your hand and ask. Right? As we have discussed at the beginning of this lecture, we are using humans for this assessment method. What other analysis method, Dr. Lasanti also mentioned in your food quality analysis, we have GCMS, HPLC, and FTIR, pH meters, all these machines are available, right? But here we have humans. We have equipments. Nowadays we have, but basically we are using humans. So there are some disadvantages. In our country, sometimes you may ask your friends to come and taste your food product. Then if sometimes there may be 50 students, so it is very difficult to get at least 10. Others, they don't want to help you and they are afraid to eat. අපි සෙන්සර් එකක් කරනකොට හරි අමාරුයි මිනිස්සු ආගන්න ලංකාවේ. ඒතර ඒ වගේ ප්‍රශ්න ගොඩක් තියෙනවා. Right? Humans are the measuring instrument. Here we use humans as the measuring instruments. Right? So if it is an instrument, we have to calibrate it. And its consistency is very important. අපි දැන් pH meter එකක් පාවිච්චි කරනකොට අපි දන්නවා ඒක calibrate කරන්න ඕන. And we have to maintain it carefully. The temperature range is very important. And how to store it, how to use the buffer solution, all these things are there. Right? All these factors are there. And sensory panel must be treated as a scientific instrument to receive reliable and valid result. Right? They have to treat as scientific instrument. Now when we use scientific instruments, so the power is same. We have to provide air conditioned environment. The temperature maintained at a standard level. It might be 25 degrees of Celsius. Right? All these factors should be same. Here also we have to provide good conditions and equal conditions to receive good result. Members of the panel must be screened, calibrated, and validated. Screening, how to do the screening, we will discuss. How to calibrate them, we will discuss. And how to validate this, we will discuss this later. Right? Test should be conducted under controlled conditions. It means light, temperature, and facilities. All these things should be managed properly. And equal conditions should be there. Using appropriate experimental designs, test method, statistical analysis methods are there, we will discuss. Properly designed experimental area should be there, we will discuss, right? So these are the things to discuss. And there are two important methods to conduct sensory assessments. We call it as descriptive analysis and consumer acceptability test. Right? Depending on the subject of the sensory science research, various methods are being used. And sensory descriptive and consumer acceptability testing are most frequently used methods. Descriptive, in this word also it mentioned, descriptive means description should be there. Discrimination and descriptive of both qualitative and quantitative sensory factors of products by trained panels. So we have to use trained panels for descriptive analysis. Trained panel means, as we have discussed, we are going to use human panels, right? There are different types of human panels. We can train humans and get. And I am also training you for sensory analysis. Then you are trained panels. And we are just going to the market and ask somebody to eat this product and comment on. That is, they are not trained. So they are consumer panels. But we have to use trained panels for quantitative tests. It means descriptive analysis. For consumer acceptability testing, scaling methods to measure the degree of liking or dislike. Native customers, it means this should be native consumers, right? Native means the consumers available in the society. They are not trained or semi-trained, right? So there are two methods, descriptive and consumer acceptability, right? It is very important. When it comes to descriptive or discrimination tests, simple difference. So we are going to analyze which sample is different. We will discuss these things. And there are several test methods we are going to discuss. Triangle test, duo-trio test, and directional differences. Which sample is sweeter? Likewise, we will discuss how to do these things. And paired comparison test is there. And preference and ranking test we will be discussed. And scoring and scaling test, sensitivity test. We will discuss these things. All these tests belongs to descriptive or discrimination test. Rather, right. Under that one, the first one is triangle test. What is the meaning of triangle? You know, trikonaya, right? Trikonaya means all the ends are similar. Trikonaya, all the ends are similar, right? And triangle means there should be 3 samples. Right? Use only 3 samples. The triangle test, that according to the name, there are only 3 samples. Determine if an overall difference exists between 2 products. The 3 samples include 2 that are identical and 1 that is different. You can see 2 are yellow color, 1 is white color. It means for triangle test, we are using 3 samples. Out of these 3 samples, 2 are similar, right? Then we ask our panelists to identify the different sample. So it means the panelist has 33% chance of simply guessing it correctly because there are 3 samples. 100 බෙදුවා මොකද දන්නවා 33යි එන්නේ. එතකොට එක එක්කෙනාට 133ක probability එකක් තියෙනවා sample එකක් හරියට තෝරා ගන්න. Right? You can see an actual sample here, triangle test. Right? There are 3 samples, but 2 are similar. 1 new sample is there. We ask the panel members to select the different one. Right? Got it? දැන් මෙතන හැබැයි ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙයි දැන් මෙතන ප්ලේන් ටි දෙකකුයි ටී එකකුයි වගේ තියන්නේ නැහැ හරිද? අපි එහෙම තියන්නේ නැහැ. ඒකට ඩක් ගාලා අඳුර ගන්න පුළුවන් නේ. So we use this type of triangle test descriptive method for very similar food products. As an example, suppose there are 2 batches. So we use the 2 batch for ice cream. We use 2 samples from the batch 1 and 1 sample from the batch 2 and ask the panel members to identify whether there is a different or not. So likewise, we are not using for very uncommon samples. We use particular samples. We use triangle test basically for similar samples. Understood? Right. The panelist is requested to identify the code on the score card representative of the odd sample, right? Then the next one, we call it as duo trio test. Duo trio, duo trio, you can pronounce it. Right? In this method, we are going to compare unknown difference between foods. Unknown difference between food. And there are duo trio. Duo means dekai, trio means tunai. Right? Here in this diagram, you can see 3 samples. 2 samples are closer. The 1 sample is there but not close. Right? Then it means we have 1 standard sample and there are 2 new samples and ask somebody to select the preferred one. Tasters are presented a reference sample. It means R along with 2 test sample. There are 2 test sample, 1 reference sample. 1 sample is the same as the reference and the other sample is to be checked. The panelist is asked to identify the sample that is the same as the reference sample to determine whether the product difference results from a change in ingredient, processing, packaging, or storage. Here you know the chance. There are only 2 samples, so chance is 50%. So we use this method. Sometimes, suppose you have developed a new product, new yogurt products for your research. The R means the reference one. You just referred Highland yogurts. So R means Highland. There are 2 your own samples and ask your panel members to select. First, we are going to taste this one and these 2, then these 2 and identify what is the similar sample. We call it as duo trio test. Then the probabilities of selecting the best one is 50%. Right? The previous one, 33%. එතන හරියක එන්න පුළුවන් chance එක 150යි නේ. එක්ක දෙකෙන් එකයිනේ තියෙන්නේ. Right. I think it's clear. Then the third one, paired comparison test. When it comes to paired comparison test, that is actually a different one. And the standard is ISO 5495-2005. As we have discussed, there are some standards for these methods. So this is ISO 5495. Then you can conduct this experiment method for your research in final year, and you just put I have conducted this paired comparison test by complying with the ISO 5495 method. then it is accepted, right? Here, what we are going to do is 2 different coded samples are presented to each panelist simultaneously. We have 2 samples and we present both samples for the panelist simultaneously. The panelists choose the one that is perceived as more intense in the specified sensory attributes. The test sample is a forced choice, and therefore the judges must have an answer in any case. This is a forced choice. අර ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා මේ ඔය සින්දු කියන ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම් වල වගේ අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම එක්කෙනෙක් තෝරන්න ඕනේ මේ කෙනෙක් අයින් කරන්න ඕනේ. So we have to do something. Definitely we have to do. So it means forced choice. We are going to present 2 samples and ask them to select one out of these 2. That is a forced one. The judges must give an answer in any case, right? Probability here 50%. Frequently used in preference tests. The test requires the same amount of samples and the panelists as the duo-trio test. Products are compared such that each sample is placed in the first testing position an equal number of times. This test causes less fatigue and is frequently used in strongly flavored or complex products. Strongly flavored or complex products. As an example, Coca-Cola. Right? Here in paired comparison test, we are just presenting 2 samples together and ask what is the best one. We just use this method for strongly flavored or complex products. So that is the reason. So when we use other methods, it will take much time and it is difficult to get a decision because these are strongly flavored and complex products. Therefore, we just ask the panel members quickly taste these samples and select the best one. And we can repeat this test. Initially, as an example, there are 2 samples, A and B. Then we present A and B and ask the panel members to select. Then suppose most of them have selected A. Then we are going to compare it with C. Then A and C. Ask the panel again to select. Right? Likewise, we can repeat this one. Okay? Then the probability is 50%. So we have discussed 3 methods. And here you can see how it conducts. Mouth freshness with dates. Right? These are the examples. Start with the coded samples from the left. Pick the sample that is most chewy. This is a paired comparison test. Got it? Right? So these are the test methods belongs to descriptive analysis, discrimination test. So the next day I am going to discuss the other method, the other one, right? Here we have discussed descriptive test, consumer acceptability testing. So under consumer acceptability testing, they have different methods, right? So you better to understand these things, and I will do the next session today, tomorrow, or day after tomorrow. I'll share the Zoom link. So please read these articles, read these slides and understand, try to understand. Right? Any questions regarding these 2 lessons? ඔගොල්ලන්ට LMS එක share කරලා ඇති මම මේක බලන්න. Okay, it seems there are no more questions.